To start making the Alchemist, I first get out every single color that I'm going to need, and then I make an armature out of paper clips connected together with aluminum foil. This armature is roughly the same scale as an amiibo, which I have on screen right now, and I just bend all of the limbs to the proper proportions. Then this gets duplicated over one more time and connected in the torso with a piece of aluminum foil. Once that's done, I need to start making the different shades of brown, one being a light brown and one being a dark brown. These are the two main colors for every single Bloons Tower Defense 6 character, except for the non-living ones. Now that I have both of my colors, it's time to start making the body. I first start by covering the majority of the armature in the dark brown clay, including the legs and the body. I also give the main torso a guts, and also size the legs to the proper proportions. As you can see now, I'm not covering the arms, as those will be the last things that I will do. After that, I cover the torso in some lighter clay, and then I give it and then I put two circles on the very top, one next to each other, one next to the other. After that, I add in the feet, which at this point are just worms that are attached to the bottom of the little leg stubs, and then they get flattened out, and after they get flattened out on both sides, I cut them into separate toes. After that, I get another paper clip out, and I turn that into the armature for the tail. This just gets pulled around until it's a good tail-like shape, and then stabbed into the back of the character. After this is done, I need to make sure that it is properly secured and also properly in the correct shape. And then once both of those are correct, it gets baked, and then I bulked up both of the legs as well as the tail. Once the tail gets completely covered, majority of the body is already finished, and it is time to start working on the next chapter, blending in the tail to the back. Of course, this blending is supposed to be seamless, but once it is seamless and there are no gaps, ridges, or anything else, I can add the belly button. And that is the end of the body and the start of the head. The next big chapter in this project. Right now it's just a large sphere of brown clay, but it's attached to the head, so it's something. After that, I make a large indent in the center of the sphere in order to allow the light brown clay to actually have some depth to it so that I can push in eyes or a mouth. After that, I actually make the eyes, which are, in this case, flat, and then I bake them. After that, I actually put in the light brown clay, and after that, I add in the little hair design thingy. This little hair design thing is just a spike at the very tip of the hair, and then two curves going outwards, going down to the chin. Of course, I did not make it perfectly even, so I had to put that in the correct way. After that, I put a worm of clay around the entirety of the gap between the light brown and the dark brown in order to make it a more clear outline. Once that outline is blended into the rest of the head, it's time to start working on more of the detailed facial features, like the eyes. I push the baked eyes from earlier both into the head, and after that, I make the eyelids. I make the pupils. Actually, yeah, I do make the eyelid. What? Once the eyelids are blended in, it is time for the pupils. This is a more detailed approach to the pupils than I've done in the past, where before I made them into little Pac-Mans, but right now, I'm using a 3-color approach. The first color is a dark brown. Then I use the dark brown, that's the body color, a lighter brown, and after that, I put a white highlight on one of the corners of the eyes, giving them their Pac-Man shapes. Once the eyes and pupils are correctly correct, I can start working on more things, like eyebrows, which are just a dark brown, which is darker than the dark brown used on the base of the body. After that, I carve in a mouth hole, and then I fill that mouth hole with black in order to make it look dark. Then, once the mouth hole is filled with black, I cut it to the proper size as well as indent it into the actual mouth so that it's indented properly. And then after that, I add a tongue. This tongue being, of course, tongue colored. After the tongue is in there, it's time to once again start working on more detailed parts of the head, as like the hair, which are just a bunch of cones. In this case, 4 cones, all pointed slightly backwards, even though, I don't know, it doesn't actually seem like they're pointed backwards when they kind of should be because they're being pushed back by the goggles. I would know. I have the plush. Once all of these little hair tufts get blended in and all pushed backwards to the proper angle, then it is time to start working on the little actual movements of the hair, making sure all of those hairs are different, go in different directions, and are bent in different ways. After that, I start making the goggles, starting with a light pink, pinkish purple translucent color in 2 spheres that are flattened in order to give them those goggle glass looks. After that, I use a light darkish yellow, and I wrap those both around the pink outline, then adding 2 small dots as nails or bolts, and then doing that one more time. This worm is wrapped completely around the translucent clay, then it is flattened, and once again, the 2 dots are added to represent bolts. Then I place these on the head to get the proper outline for what it'll look like, and then I make a worm of brown clay, just kind of dull brown clay, and I wrap that worm all the way around the head to make the goggle strap. Now, once this goggle strap is pushed all the way around to the proper size, and then pushed flattened in order to make it an actual strap, sized once again correctly, I can place both of the 2 actual lenses on there. Once the lenses are done, it's time to start working on the arms, the last major part of the body. Now, as I tried to reposition the armature, the head broke off, but that was actually a good thing because it allowed me to reposition the head in a more correct way, facing slightly downwards. After that, and the head is reattached, I start making the hands, which is just a ball of clay with a thumb poked out and then the fingers cut in. These go on the ends of the armature, except for the one arm that doesn't have an armature because it's supported by the head. And then a worm of brown clay is put around it on the bottom. Then I make the little potion. This is not the perfect way because I used white translucent clay, which isn't fully see-through, and then in the middle I used regular clay, which is not see-through at all. After that, I put it in its hand, and then I made the pink color that the entirety of the lab coat is made out of. I started by adding the pink as the base of the arm, and then attached the hand and base of brown that I had made earlier, flipped it to be the correct way with the thumb. Then I added the pink to the rest of the exposed metal armature. After that, I made the little sleeve folds, or the rolled up sleeves, and then I indented them to be more sleeve-like. This is 10 out of 10 commentary right there. Once these sleeves are more sleeve-like with a little dent in the middle, I start by flattening out a sheet of pink clay and putting it over the back. Once I have the proper proportions, I slice the clay to be the proper size to actually go over the back. After that, it's just a matter of cutting it to the proper size, except for the one arm where that won't work. So I both cut it to the proper size and also make it fit properly by cutting out a little extra. Once that's done, I position the lab coat in the way that I want the lab coat to look, and then, after that, I add the golden outline. This outline goes across all of the edges of the chest edges and the bottom edges of the robes. Once that's on there properly, there's only one more thing to do. Besides, of course, make the lab coat look even better, and that's make a base with some flattened green clay and a bunch of gray circles that look kind of like rocks. This is kind of the same way that I made all of the other actual bases, and by all of the other, I mean just one, because this is only done in the Wizard Monkey. Once all of these rocks are down there, I just bash them with one of my softer tools in order to give them a slightly rock path-like texture. Then it gets pushed in, and it is finished.